This is called Blogging is Painful. Blogging is actually very painful. Okay, laugh now. Sound of 1,000 babies clearing their throats. I dressed as Indiana Jones for my preschool Halloween party. Programs are a good way to talk about this, which I'm not talking about and won't be talking about. But what I want to say is that when a person blogs and they know that a few people might read it, relate to it or not relate to it, all the things that come with that, there is a pain in being aware of that. Blogging is a means to connect to others, but it's also definitely a disconnect. We need to shift the warlike energy associated with politicians' names over to sexual energy. Why shouldn't a person be taught to love? You are looking at Flickr pictures of your friend with Terrence Trent D'Arby in Cancun. You are thirsty again. You get up to leave the house to buy Fresca. It is a lousy substitute for social interaction. Not sure what in it exactly I'm referring to, but it is painful because it is done, even if unconsciously, in an effort to connect with people one feels disconnected from, possibly a geographical disconnect or just a peculiar social disconnect, like two murderous clowns masturbating each other. It is painful even when done anonymously. I'm actually lucky to have been born when I was, because if I were a kid now, I would probably be on every ADD drug under the sun. There are probably as many different kinds of disconnects as there are blogs. Of course, art does cause change, or maybe I just don't care as much. The geographical disconnect might include people who live too far away to be physically touched. Then Perry Farrell all of a sudden jumps off the stage, and next thing I know, dude's fucking suplexing me like I'm some fucking Cornish game hen. And then I'm laying there with fucking asphalt-encrusted yogurt all over my face, and Perry Farrell's all back on stage, and he's flying down, a tap in his elbow, which is the flying elbow smash. I like the type this way after all. It's like viewing the poem through a pair of binoculars. I kind of don't care about that thing from before there was this thing. They would be driving a golf cart alongside me, yelling encouragements on my daily 10-mile run. So built and not demonstrated, it lassos the comely moon. The social one might be peculiar, say, in the guessing that goes into who reads this, or who reads this who can't be communicated with in any other way. They send out signals that mingle around variously patterned salons of intelligently synced up pattern holes. Couldn't find what is supposed to be my own blog, and yeah, there is some measure of importance to be considered. Blogging might actually be the least cathartic form of publication. What should I have for lunch? This could be affected by a lot of variables. I hated the Chicago Bulls. I might be totally wrong. I also subscribe to a loose idea of being committed enough to the process that one is willing to write things that are potentially stupid, embarrassing, or even petty. But the transmission of a blog post carries with it an expectation of not only an instant readership, but one that will instantly, because this is the internet after all, reply with a current transmission. Will you please reply in no time, like Richard Dreyfuss obnoxious right now? Is it necessarily only achieved through Google sculpting? I wonder if the other patrons can hear me under my breath. Very naughty, and yet the listener can't decide it's naughty without a certain amount of presumption. One could blog in a completely nonchalant way. I came over 900 times last month. One could really have absolutely no expectations about being found out. Would a salad believe this? Do you ever find yourself asking yourself this question? One could blog in a completely utilitarian way. A dream where I'm on tour with the Arcade Fire, and I think me and the blonde one are like stranded in a McDonald's parking lot somewhere until Marx comes by in his Hummer to pick us up so we can catch up to the rest of the band on tour. So I'm left with one less way to get myself out of the house. One could behave in a completely sociopathic way, or indeed be blogging at the behest of some psychotic intent. But what's the point of bringing that up? Either voluntarily or not, they're a part of their own consciousness of it. Believe me when I tell you that blogging is not to be taken lightly. This is cathartic. I also watched LA Law on a regular basis. More likely, it was because we just couldn't remember. I would like to now bifurcate that sentence a bit and just say that the blogging of literally billions has implications which almost completely eclipse the implications of blogging itself. I wrote this in an essay in health class and ended up being invited to help keep score for the basketball team. But maybe all of life is beautifully harrowing, and the implications of communication, of the digitized message in a bottle that any blog really and truly contains. Aphex Twin is playing, and I'm writing this, and I'm looking at the monitor with part of the words covered by a smudge. Blogs are meta-containers like Russian dolls and do require maintenance. I should know better, and I do, but I go around loving everything. I wrote a thing where a kid is murdering his father. What is the appeal of black metal? Don't get me started. A dream where I had to go back to my dishwashing job where somehow I was obligated to and there was no way to get out of it. And looking in the sports section at an article about how Stephen Wright is actually a really great athlete. There's a picture accompanying the article that shows Stephen Wright's rifle-like tennis swing, and also an article about a local couple who were involved in the avant-garde in the 1930s and 40s, posing nude with their parts strategically covered. And I'm yelling at Ross in my father's living room, loudly complaining that there's no way I'm going back to that job. He's trying to explain to me how the person they have now comes in late, calls himself Mr. Bumblebutt, and uses the wrong exit to leave. And I'm getting really upset, but then I wake up, and I'm very relieved. How would a serial killer's blog read? A phenomenon of the late 70s and 80s. I once masturbated in the back of a bus in Ireland. This will be the only item here that involves me masturbating. It's good and necessary to have a philosophy. When I was a kid, I have a staring problem. I do creepy pretty well. We are nearing the end of summer, when the blogging is dumb and the living, it's easy. How would a virus's blog read? I don't quite understand when people say, well, I haven't written anything in a long time. If a virus could blog, we would not understand it. We would not be invited readers. I'm not good at knowing whether someone is joking. That would be too lateral, passive. There's a level at which this is all rhetoric. What a virus wants, of course, is direct contact. I've always dreamed of being in a band of misfits where we play our instruments by not learning how to play our instruments. But the form dictates the expectation of the kind of shared experience that's peculiar to the internet. Today is my day off. What should I do? I think I have hemorrhoids. Today is my day off. What'll I do? Does blogging remind anyone else of shadow puppets? Why do I feel like someone is about to break it to me? Please be gentle. I'm going to read from this one